regular Metro Force.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to today's video. We're going to be going over some of the recent pickups I personally had for not only the Xbox 360, but a couple other things that one is technically gaming oriented, and the other, due to it being spooky season, I figured I would share it with you guys and see what your guys' thoughts were on it. So right out of the gate, let's just get this thing going here. So the first thing I wanted to share with you guys was this 3D printed, it's actually for Nintendo Switch games, and I bought this off of my wife's cousin because he makes a whole bunch of stuff out of a 3D printer. But nonetheless, I thought this was a pretty cool pickup that I thought that I would share with you guys, and then again, maybe you guys thought it would be pretty cool. So the first game I got is Fusion Frenzy 2, and for those that do not know, I am a huge party game player, so like, you know, Mario Party, I'm all for those types of games. So me getting Fusion Frenzy 2 was just like a no-brainer, and it was definitely a game that I did not get around to playing. I did, however, play Fusion Frenzy 1 on the original Xbox, and I really enjoyed Fusion Frenzy on the Xbox, so I knew going into buying Fusion Frenzy 2, even though I never played it, I know without a doubt I'm going to get enjoyment out of it. Next up, we got Blue Dragon, and this is most certainly a CIB. So there you guys go, take a good gander at that. So Blue Dragon was suggested to me. I never got around to playing it, but it is a turn-based RPG, and one that I definitely could tell when I was looking at the gameplay is a game that I most certainly will enjoy. And although I have not had the time recently to play any sort of RPG that takes an extended period of time to play, I had been making kind of the running joke now that I got the baby here, that playing an RPG, especially a turn-based RPG, seems like something that I can accommodate while trying to look after the little guy, because I don't have to constantly be staring at the screen, and I can kind of sift through the menu or pause it willy-nilly as I play without having to worry too much about the gameplay being affected. So next up is South Park: The Stick of Truth. And it says it's CIB. I don't know if it's actually supposed to have a manual or if it's just that insert that kind of comes in there with it. But again, another game that I didn't necessarily get around to playing, but it was heavily suggested by a few people that I acquire, especially considering how cheap it was, because I do believe I spent, after shipping and tax, it might have been around the $12 range. And then seeing the gameplay, seeing it being a third-person RPG, kind of like hack and slash kind of, I really felt like the visuals that I was seeing on the gameplay kind of reminded me that of Castle Crashers, but in 3D versus Castle Crashers being in 2D. Now, that aside, I was also told that the game is relatively short, which is perfectly fine for me, considering there's so many games that I'm trying to get around to playing that I missed out on. So this one, maybe being a 3 to 5 hour play, is perfectly fine for me. And the next game I got, which was also a CIB, was Metal Gear Rising. And this is also a CIB. Just want to show you guys there so you can see. And this was another one that I believe I only paid out the door around 15 bucks. And again, suggested to me, and not one that I got around to playing, and I had no idea what to expect. So when I actually went to look up how this game played out, I was definitely surprised that this was not like a traditional Metal Gear game. And of course, after I read the back of the box, it literally says that it kind of got away from the stealth that we know from the Metal Gear series, and this one kind of turned it up a bit, and it's more fast paced, and of course it's more hacking and slashing, which is again perfectly fine by me because I absolutely love those types of games, and it's definitely a different spin from what I could see. But nonetheless, it was a game that I definitely found intrigue when trying to look up into it before I acquired it. It was a cheap buy, so if any of you out there have yet to play this game, I would definitely look into it if you're trying to acquire games for the Xbox 360. So the last video game that I have to share with you guys today is Rayman Origins, and this one is CIB as well. And this was another cheap buy. I believe it was, again, another $10-15 buy, And I really like Rayman as far as the game itself. I only got to play through the original one years and years ago. I actually played it on PC and had no idea that it actually had a PS1 release. So I was suggested to play Rayman Origins, and I did like how the game style looked. My only critique when I was looking into this is I noticed that Rayman is pretty small on the picture in comparison to how he looked on the original Rayman. Now, I'm not saying it's going to affect the gameplay at all. It was just something for me personally when I seen how he kind of looked on the first one to how now it's almost like he's a quarter of the size of what he originally looked from what I could remember. But outside of that, it looked like the visuals were still really good, and I love that animation style that went along with Rayman. And of course, the actions involved and the little collections of things that you got to get, those little guys that I can't remember what the heck they're called. But of course, you got to save them so that way you can 100% the game. And I can tell by looking at this that it's going to be a great platformer game, just like how the original was, and it's going to pose a great challenge, I'm sure. But if you have not only played Rayman Origins, but if you haven't played the original Rayman, I highly suggest you check them out. So last but not least, my non-video game buy that I wanted to share with you guys is none other than the Evil Dead 2 Collector's Edition DVD that looks like I'll say a goofier Necronomicon because of the teeth and everything like that. But as you can see, it has the different pages and stuff like that kind of mixed in there. It's not like a full book, but you can tell that they put a lot of thought into this. And not only do you have the good detail on the front, but when you're kind of spinning it around, you can see that on the spine it looks pretty good. And then they got like a ear on the back. And I should have probably pulled this up, but I do have the original one for Evil Dead 1 that looks similar to that. They turned it into a Necronomicon. It's on the back wall over there. And I do have the box. I just pulled it out of the box so I could show you guys the book. I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. A lot of people would tell you that the second one is better. I would just say it's probably better just because I think they had a slightly bigger budget going into the second one than the first one. And of course, you got to see Ash's more goofy side going into the second one than how you did in the adaptation to the first one. But that is all I had for you guys. And if there's anything you'd like to add in the comments below, please let me know. And then I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.